Woohoo!
Awesome. Aloha, everybody. We are very excited. Welcome to the Soundcheck and Q&A. So I'm here. You'll see that lovely Diane Nalini is also here. Yay! So thank you guys so much.
Yay! Hi, Sarah.
This is a really special one, I feel, because it's actually a double workshop today. So you're not just getting one. Yay! And I see there's folks from everywhere in the chat. Thank you, guys. We've got folks from Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, Australia. I think it's early morning there, if I recall correctly, like super early morning, as well as all over the United States, and of course, Canada. So this is fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Aloha, everyone. Happy
England.
Saturday.
Sweet.
If definitely let us know if things are sounding and looking good. You can, mention to Diane that she needs to switch to Canon as well.
I think she looks just fine, Craig. Craig Chi.
Oh, Chantel is in the chat.
And
I love
Brazil,
the
Aileen's
studio
here.
coming up. It's looking really, really great. I gotta admit, I'm a little jealous to have a nice big studio space like that. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
people don't realize. Well, you know what? Actually, we have a larger space than we did when we were in San Diego. In San Diego, it was like half this size.
Yeah, that was rough.
But yeah, people don't realize like how we're utilizing our space.
I love the layout of ukes at the back there on your backdrop, Sarah. On the
Thank you. We now have enough instruments that like we actively play because like we actually actively play these because one of those is we're testing out a set of actual linear baritone strings for the tenor uke. So
Yes.
that's one of those behind us. So we're trying out a low D string, and then there's one that I use for teaching, and then of course the one that's in my lap. Yeah, so we've got a lot of instruments out.
That's right. When you want to experiment with strings, you need multiple instruments, don't
Yes,
you? Yeah.
exactly.
So use that
That's so
excuse for those
cool.
of you who are in the chat when you
That's
need
right.
to purchase that next uke. Just like, I need to test out these other strings.
Multiple tunings. That's right.
Oh, Larry,
it's
good
so
to see you
nice
in
to see
chat.
folks.
Donald, Rob, I saw Rob. We're gonna see him soon for the retreat. I
Hi,
believe.
Rob.
That's
And
gonna be
Carrie.
fun.
Chantel. Hi,
Oh, can you
Chantel.
turn
Hi,
the AC off,
Alini.
Sarah? The remote should be right on your table.
Roger Cornish. Hi, Roger. I can only see a small number of the chat on this little window I have here. Sorry if I'm missing anyone.
It's so great to see everybody. I love it.
Surely.
Oh, and today you can use either high G or low G. I don't think it actually matters. What do you think, Diane?
I agree. I don't think it matters. I'm actually teaching on high G because my low G uke is over with Adrian for when we do the concert. So
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And there's one thing I'll mention about like having a low G in one of the things that in one of the chord substitutions that I'm doing, but it's not necessary. But great question.
No.
Thank you for asking. High G or low G for this class today. Does not matter. Pick your favorite uke.
Doesn't matter.
Eileen and Lewis, aloha everyone. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. So we have a double workshop coming up, utilizing the same song, but layering all these different fun things to kind of apply to your other songs as well. And then we have a very special mini concert from Diane and Adrian and special guests. We're super, super excited. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is going to be a good one. Let's see. Any housekeeping things, Sarah?
I can go into what events we have coming up if you'd like, because we could talk about that stuff. If you haven't already gotten your packet for today, you'll see we have the website listed, craigandsarah.com/live, if you would like to purchase a packet. That'll give you both workshops. And then there's the Diaper Club package, which Diane is graciously already given us the music notation and tablature for the chord melody of today's song, Too Marvelous for Words. And then she will be recording a video going through the piece. And that folks who purchase the Diaper Club will have access to that video link by February 25th. I'll send out an updated email so that you have the link. And so there's that. So if you'd like to go ahead and purchase your packet, you can take a minute because we aren't starting the workshop till 9 a.m. Hawaii time. So you still have a little bit of time. You have 8 minutes according to the countdown to purchase your packet. If you have any issues with your packet, you can send us a quick email. Craig is doing all of the tech stuff today, going through and emailing people packets. If they're like, oh no, my link isn't working, or I didn't get the link, just let us know. And then we have some... Actually, I'm super excited about this. So Diane was our speaker last year for our exclusive Artist Works monthly series, which was really awesome. We actually have had, Diane, students comment about how inspiring your talk was.
Was it last year or last
Oh,
month?
I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear
Last
that,
month.
Sarah.
Yeah.
That's
We've
so
had
nice.
multiple VEs where they're like, oh, Diane's talk inspired me, so I'm going to be doing more VEs. I'm going to be doing this. Yeah, so thank you for...
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
It's been so fun to have have you had joined us from the very beginning and to see the growth of both like the school, and to see you again, because you're a super accomplished singer already.
Yeah.
Incredible performer and musician, and then being able to be with you on your ukulele journey on that side. It was so much fun, and it was so much
You guys have been just you guys are such an inspiration to me. And such wonderful teachers, and just so supportive. And what I love, I always loved, as much as I loved receiving my own VE answers from you, of course, I looked forward to those. But I also loved watching other people's VE responses, because I learned a lot also just. So I if people are shy and not quite ready to do it, they can still learn so much from watching your responses to other people. Because often, we all face the same. I think there's a commonality to the experiences that we have when we're learning a new instrument. And so whether we're getting the response to a question we asked, or whether we're seeing a response to something that someone else asked, it's still a learning process to be like, those light bulb moments are still going to happen. And so that's so great too.
Yes. So thank you for being our guest last month. It was
My
awesome.
pleasure.
And this month's guest, we actually have a gentleman from originally from Maui. He is known more for his slack key guitar. However, he's a very accomplished ukulele player. He studied with Benny Chong as well. His name is Jeff Peterson. And so for our again, this is an exclusive for our Artist Work students. Jeff Peterson is going to be February 26th, I believe.
Yeah, I'll have graphics once the sound check is
that's fine.
done.
So there's that's going to be that's at 8 a.m. Hawaii time.
But
We're waking
rumor
up.
has it that we'll also be doing a joint workshop with him down the road, as well as a backyard concert. So
we're excited. We're going to be
great.
a bunch with
I love
him.
him.
So he's going through a classical piece, actually, which will be really, really fun. And we'll have that classical piece go out in the forum and stuff, students. So look out for that. If you're just now hearing about this, you can log on after the workshop, log on to Artist Works, go in the forum, Craig and Sarah's bulletin, and you'll see all the information, including the Zoom link. And also, if you can't join us live, you can always ask questions in the forum, and we'll try to ask those questions while we have him.
now, don't forget, if you are watching this on replay, you can still get your packet and still be a part of everything. But throughout the pandemic, it's been important to Sarah and I to have a free option for our online workshops. A lot of people are still being affected by the pandemic. So we still show everything on screen. And if you do need some help and you do want a packet of your own, I can't afford one at the time, just send us an email.
Yep.
Please just let us know. We have that diaper package that not only includes extra material, but it's a way to help pay it forward for those who cannot afford a packet at this time. So thank you all for helping support the ukulele community in that way, and also for helping keeping these live workshops going throughout the past few years.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, it's been really great, and again, shout out to all of our incredible Artist Work students who've been with us. Yeah, we really are so appreciative of you guys.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if we will have a March workshop. I think that's going to be March 12th. We are still working out the subject matter. We have a couple of different ideas. And we're also still going through some of the great ideas. Whenever anybody makes a donation to us, you have the option of actually giving us a suggestion. And I've been keeping track of all of those suggestions in a spreadsheet. So we're still going through the list of those. And so there's a couple that we're thinking about for March, and then we have another backyard concert which will be announced later. That's going to be on the 13th because we've already filmed, and Craig is already busy editing the next backyard concert series.
Yeah, and for our March Hawaii retreat people, we have another update coming up next week, but we're getting close. We're super excited about that, and it's been so wonderful to finally see all the numbers start to come down in cases, and so we're looking forward to this one so much, to be able to see you guys and play some music.
And tomorrow, don't forget, we've got the live premiere of our 5th backyard concert with Kala'e Camarillo. Oh my gosh, I love the songs that he's written. He's done I think most of his set is actually original tunes. And it's a really fun concert. It's going to fly by so fast.
Yeah, and we also have some goodies in the live chat for tomorrow.
Yes. Hawaiian Host chocolates. So you could win some Hawaiian Host chocolates.
Yummy.
Right?
Those are really good.
Yep. And they ship worldwide. So there's that one, and then there's also
from the Hawaii Music Supply. They donated an opio by Ko'oloha, so you can actually win an ukulele again tomorrow. Or
you can't win it tomorrow,
but
enter.
You get
to
an
win.
Extra entry by joining us in the live chat tomorrow during the premiere.
And then there's also CDs as well, and string sets and all of that great stuff. And I think we also have another Artist Works subscription that we can also
that's gonna be fun.
put in there too.
I see Sherry, I see Ashley, Orlando in the chat, Teko, Ohio.
It's got to be early in
Holly,
Japan.
Lewis. It's
Teko,
so great
Rob,
to see
Ashley,
so many
so
great
nice.
people. Karen, Lindy Lou, aloha everyone. I know if you haven't seen Ashley's Christmas concert, Ashley, did you post the whole concert or just the one song? Because I loved working with you on that song. You did such a great job. Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. All right, 30 seconds. If there's any questions in the chat, please let us know. We told Diane to focus on her material, and we'll kind of curate questions as they come up. Perfect. Oh my gosh, quarantining, that's not fun. Oh, I hope you guys stay
we know a
safe
couple
out
of
there.
folks who are having to quarantine this weekend, and they said, well, I'll be spending my whole weekend with you. And we said, great. I'm glad that we can give you something fun and potentially constructive to do this weekend while you're kind of stuck, potentially just in a room.
Let me switch to this.
Oh my gosh.
So
ukulele is the perfect quarantine partner, I think.
Right?
Don't you think? The uke is your perfect quarantine buddy.
I think so.
That and Cheetos, I would say.
What?
But,
Now, Cameron would agree with that.
but okay,
Cameron's probably the best quarantine buddy.
Oh my gosh.
Couple graphics. One, here's the Jeff Peterson. So February 26th, probably, I think 8 o'clock Hawaii time.
It's 8 o'clock Hawaii time because he has another class at 10.
And then Diane has a much better logo, but I'll push this one for now. Definitely look up ukulele for jazz singers. Not to be confused with my jazz for ukulele singers. But she has a ton of fantastic lessons and performances on the YouTube, and check out her website. Some great performances.
Yep.
And also, we're going to unleash this right now, but this is coming up in May. And what they don't realize is that I'm spending my birthday weekend with them. My birthday's on the 24th.
Oh, wow, Craig.
And I turned 23.
That's awesome.
So, it...
But yes, sign up by February 28th, and don't forget to use the code extra10 so you can get an extra 10% off the already early bird price.
So if you enjoy today, this is going to be that, but way more hardcore on the jazz stuff, which will be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that a lot.
And this is the second one. She did it last year, and it was a blast.
And I'm gonna play the Kala'e snippet for just a minute, and then we'll officially get started.
Yeah.
So here we go. This is going to be happening tomorrow morning. Hope you guys can join us. I want to go back to the place on the south of the valley, where the people go from all around the globe to live a little while in style. Right, so we're very excited for tomorrow for that. And Diane, a couple things before we start. I know both Sarah and I are completely blown away by your career and the chance to even perform for President Clinton,
as well as Sir Paul McCartney.
How can you even put that into words and describe the feeling?
Oh. It was very exciting. I would say that when I performed for President Clinton, it was more like it was nerves because of the situation. It's a very official. It was for the launch of an institute in Oxford in England, and it was, lots of high dignitaries and stuff and lots of security. And so I was nervous but excited about that. But the occasion where I sang for Paul McCartney, that was like probably one of the highest level of nerves I've ever had, because he's just such a hero and legend, a hero of mine. So I had dinner with him before the concert, and I got to sit at the same table as him. And I was just trying to absorb everything he was saying, but I was so nervous about the performance that was coming later that I have vague memories. It's like the whole thing was a dream. I can't recount everything that was said, because I recall a few things, but it was like it just went by like a dream.
Yeah. That's cool.
Well, you guys are going to know exactly how the president felt, because you're going to get a chance to see Diane perform later today. So the plan is we're going to start with Diane, and then she's going to run off to a different studio to get ready for the concert while Sarah does her workshop, and then we're going to switch back to Diane for the concert to end this fantastic event today. So Sarah, anything else before we officially hand it over to Diane?
I don't think so. So Diane, your 45 minutes begins now. Please.
Now, okay.
Yeah, we didn't cut into your time. So take it away.
Oh, okay. No worries. Thank you. Okay, well, hi, everybody. It's so exciting to be with you here today. I'm really pleased. Sarah and Craig are such inspirations to me in my ukulele journey, and it's just a delight to get to give back to this community. So we're going to be covering a wonderful jazz standard that is certainly very special to me for many reasons. This is Too Marvelous for Words. And the song was recorded by countless famous jazz luminaries in the last century, including Nat King Cole and Billie Holiday. several others. There's a version by Frank Sinatra and many other singers. So the very first thing I would advise you to do, if you're not familiar with this song, obviously I'm going to teach you the basic chords today, and I'm going to be singing the melody, and so you'll have a chance to hear it from me. But I encourage you to check out as many other versions of this song as you can, because that's the best way to really digest a song, internalize it, listen to the harmony, listen on multiple levels. So we'll come back to that in a moment, but let's just put the chord chart up here now. And so this is Too Marvelous for Words, and I'm going to take you through the chart. Hopefully you can see the bottom of the page. I don't know if that text is going to stay up there the whole time, but
we'll take it
Craig,
off.
if you want to move it. Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, thanks. So let's just go through. This is the first page. You'll notice I've called it the version with no bar chords, because I want this version to be as accessible to all of you as possible. And if you don't feel comfortable with 4-note voicings, don't forget that you can go and revert in the first instance to whatever version of the chords that you're most familiar with. So if you don't feel comfortable playing a D minor 7 yet, then remember that you can voice it without the pinky, for example. So the difference with that is this is D minor triad, and this is D minor 7 with my pinky down. And I'm playing 2, 2, 1, 3. That's my D minor 7. So that's the first chord in this song. If you don't want to have your pinky there and just play old-fashioned triad, it's still going to sound good. What I would suggest is I'm going to just play through all the chords in the song, and I'm going to count it in and play it with me. We're not going to focus on any comping. We're not going to be using our right hand to do anything fancy. We're just going to strum the chords as they occur. So if they last a whole 4 beats, we're just going to play a whole note. If they last for 2 beats, we're going to do D minor 7 for 2 beats, G7 for 2 beats. So let's just do that so that we familiarize ourselves with the song. And before we even start, we're going to look at the chart, and we're going to digest the fact that this is a 32-bar form song, which is very common in jazz, and it follows an AABA structure, which means there's an 8-bar sequence where you're telling a story. You're too marvelous, baby. You're too marvelous for words. Then there's a second A where you're repeating the same idea with different lyrics. Then something happens in the B section where there's a bridge. The chords are going to a different place, and then we recapitulate some of that initial story. You're so marvelous, baby. And that's our last A. So let's do this together, and we'll count it in nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. You're just D minor 7, too marvelous, G7. Another D minor 7, too marvelous for words like glorious, F6, glamorous, E minor 7. And that old standby amorous. Once again, second A. You're just too wonderful, G7. I'll never find the words that C major 7s tell enough, F6. Spell enough. Now we go to E6, 9. I mean, they just aren't swell enough. G minor 7, B section. You're much too much, C7. Again, G minor 7. Too very, 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 C7. To ever, F6, ever be, B flat 7. In Webster's E minor 7, dictionary, A7. And so back to A, D minor 7. And so I'm borrowing G7. Here comes some quick changes. A love song, B flat 7. From the birds, A7. To tell you that, D minor 7. You're slide it over, marvelous, F minor 7 to B flat 7. Too marvelous for words. And C sharp diminished. So that's just a map of the song. We'll unpack this and I'll go through the transitions now. But you now have a sense, and this is when I'm learning a new jazz song, if I'm familiar with the melody but not the chords, this is exactly how I would go about learning that song. First, I take stock. What is the map of this song? 32 bars, A, A, B, A. That's the structure. Then I look to hear, like I just strum the chords like that. What do they sound like against the melody? Can I start to internalize how they sound? Then I do something that I'm going to show you next, which is having played through the chords to get a general sense of how the harmony sounds against the melody. Next stop is going to be to pick out the roots of the song. So what do I mean by roots? I mean the letter name of the chord. So in D minor 7, the root is D. And most of the time for the voicings that you see here on this page, because they're simple voicings on our first cut at this tune, they're dominant 7 chords, 6 chords for the major chords or major 7s. All of these inversions that you see on this page, they have the root hidden inside them. So you will be able to pick out the root wherever you are in these particular chords. Once we add more sophisticated voicings and color notes, jazz tones, chord tones, I mean, sometimes the root will be hidden in obscured because you're covering the root up with another note. But let's, for the time being, either if you want to shape the chords with me and just pick out the root, you can, or if you want to just play single notes and just play the letter, you can. So I'm going to go a little bit faster, and I'm going to start plucking them in 4/4 times. So it's going to sound like this. I'm going to play D and then G. You're just too marvelous. D. Too marvelous. G. For words. C. Like glorious. F. Glamorous. E. And that'll stand by. A. Amorous. So we can do that for the whole song, and I'll do the second A just so you can hear second A, and I'll do the bridge. I might not do the last A. Okay. Again, you're just too wonderful. I'll never find the words that tell enough. C, F, spell enough. E, I mean they just aren't swell enough. G, you're much too much. C, G, too very, very, very. C, F, to ever be. B flat. E, in Webster's dictionary. D, and so I'm borrowing. G, a love song. C, B flat, from the birds. A, to tell you that you're. F, B flat, too marvelous for words. I'd like to take a moment just to talk a little bit about that last A section, because in order to hear the progression in the bass, where you pick the notes on your ukulele and which octave your notes are in can make a difference in terms of how you're digesting the harmony. So, for example, in the third bar of the A section, we have the chords C major 7, a love song, B flat 7, from the birds, A7. Okay? In order to hear that movement, you may find it easier to play the C up here. Instead of playing your open C string here, play the C an octave higher at the 3rd fret of the A string. And for that, you're going to say, a love song from the birds. Okay? So it's going to look like this. It's going to look C, a love song, B flat, walk it back, from the birds, A. And then we go for our D, again at the 2nd fret on the C string. To tell you that, F, you're marvelous, B flat, to, back to D, marvelous, back to G. I'm playing my open G string, but if you're on low G, you can play low G or the G here on the E string, whichever you prefer. So you might think to yourself, why do I have to do this? I'm a ukulele player. I just want to play chords. But the reason for doing this exercise is understanding the bass movement, the root movement of every chord is essential in order for you to fully understand what you're hearing in terms of harmony. This is particularly true when you deal with these so-called look-alike chords. So you'll notice that D minor 7, which is 2-2-1-3, is voiced the same way as F6, which is the same 2-2-1-3, right? And yet it makes a difference whether we call that chord D minor 7 or call it F6. Why? Because the bassist is going to be playing a different root, and when people improvise on that chord, the notes that they choose, remember when you're improvising, you're not just improvising one chord at a time. You're not thinking, okay, I'm going to play this grouping of notes for this chord, and then for this grouping of notes for the next chord. No. When we improvise, we're thinking longer term. We're basically saying, okay, this is a 2-5-1, for example, in the key of C. So I'm going to play notes that are going to jive well with a major 2-5-1. I might choose all notes from the C scale because they're all going to work well over that 2-5-1. And there may be certain notes I need to avoid for certain portions of that 2-5-1. Don't worry if this is not jiving with you right now. It doesn't matter that you understand or not what a 2-5-1 is. What does matter is that you fully appreciate how important it is to understand what the roots are of all of these chords. It's going to also serve you well when you're trying to learn a song by ear from a recording where you may not have access to the sheet music, but you want to be able to pick stuff up from a recording and make your own chart for that. The very first thing that you should always be doing is listening to the bass and writing down the roots that you hear for all those chords, because the root is the building block of the chord. And it's going to be so much easier to do stuff by ear, transcribe tunes by ear, if you can figure out the bass movement. All right, so now the next thing I wanted to show you is I'm just going to go a little bit closer into that very first chord chart. We're not going to get into the comping rhythms just yet, but we're going to get into them very, very soon. I just want to show you a little closer up here what we're dealing with in the A sections for this song. So you'll notice we have D minor 7, G7, and then again another D minor 7 and another G7. All right, but that's just kind of like repeating yourself. But they're all heading towards that chord in the fifth bar, which is C major 7. So I'm going to highlight this all in one color, just to draw our attention to it. Because what this is a very common progression in jazz, and it's called a major 2-5-1. The thing that I omitted to say at the very beginning, which I want to point out to you right now, is that this song is in the key of C. You probably already gleaned that from looking at the key signature on the left. If you are familiar with key signatures, you'll know that when there's nothing written, it's C or A minor. It's one of those two things. Excuse me. And we are in the key of C. And how do we know it's not A minor? Well, one of the reasons is we have all these harmonies that are telling us that we're in a major key. And the other reason is the last note of the song, too marvelous for words, that's C. And we've landed on home, and it sounds very much like home. So our home key and our home tonality for all of this is the key of C. Now, why do I say that the D minor 7 is a 2? The G7 is a 5, and the C is a 1. Well, if you number all of the chords, if you number all of the notes in the C scale, C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, and G is 5. Okay, and we might as well go up to A, which is 6. And this chord is going to use all of those, the chords that are built on each of those notes in the C scale. So the one chord contains all of the notes in the C major 7. And if you think of a piano, look at all the white keys on your keyboard. Press C, skip 1. Press E, skip 1. Press G, skip 1. Press B. And you're going to get all the notes in a C major 7 chord. That's your one chord. Next, do the same exercise starting on D. Press D, skip 1. Press F, skip 1. Press A, and that's your D minor triad, and so on and so forth. And you can do this. I'm not going to do it all right now, but our D minor 7 is definitely the second chord. It's a minor chord, and so we call it a minor 2 chord. The next chord, if you go to G and only press the white keys on the keyboard, you're going to get that dominant 5 chord, which is your G7 chord. That's your 5 chord. And then this harmony, even though it goes back and forth between D minor 7 and G, really it's all heading to 1, which is C major 7. So that is a major 2-5-1 in the key of C. And all these other chords that we also use in this section, I'm just going to write this down here. So that's our 2. This is our 5. Again, we have a 2, a 5, and a 1. The next chord here is 4. We don't need to. This is not like an analysis course, so we don't need to write it down for everything. But just take note that F6 is also very much in the key of C. If you press the F on the piano and build a chord up from there, all the notes in the F6 chord are built on the 4th degree of the scale, which is F. E minor 7 is your 3 chord. A7 is your 6 chord. We're always in the key of C here. And we stay there for the second A section until we get to the second ending here. And I'm just going to mark that in a different color. I'll mark it in orange because it's not quite yellow, but it's transitioning somewhere. You'll notice that it's called E6-9, and that's just an inversion that I chose for you guys to play because I liked the fact that you can play it without knowing bar chords. So the E6-9 chord is 2-2-3-3. You can play it with all 4 of your fingers if you prefer. So let me just cut to my hand so that you can see what I'm talking about. I can play it this way with all 4 fingers on, sorry, did I say 2-2-3-3? I meant 1-1-2-2. Or I can play it as a sort of a double bar. I bar at the 1st fret and partial bar on the 2 strings up next. Either way, it sounds very pretty, but it's definitely an E major chord, and you can hear that it's a cousin of the E major triad, which is 4-4-4-2, right? That's your traditional E major triad, and you can totally hear that this is in the same quality. It's also an E major chord. It has a little bit of richness in it because it also has, it's got the 6 in it, it's got the 9, it sounds really hip, it sounds really pretty, but it is, it's still an E major chord. So the fact that we've switched from having an E minor chord in the A section to suddenly having an E major chord tells us that we're heading in a different direction. So something exciting is happening for the B section. So if I go to my B section, what is happening here? I notice that I have G, C. I have very much the same pattern of a minor chord. A minor chord here, a dominant chord that's looks like a 2-5 again in the key of F. So all of this has now transitioned me into the key of F. And I apologize. I'm going to use a different color because it's not the same as that orange. Okay. So it's almost like the harmony in this tune is mimicking what we just heard, where we went from D to G to C in the key of C. But all of a sudden now, if you think of F as being your home key, you've got the 2 chord of F, which is, remember, F is 1, G is 2, and I'm going to count up from F. F, G, A, B, C. C is my 5 chord. Okay, so exactly what we just saw, a mirror structure, but in a different key. It's 2-5-1. In the key of F. So that's 2, 5, 2, 5, 1. And then also notice that we've got some really cool movement here that is helping to bring us back at the end of this bridge. We've got a familiar thing here. We saw an E minor 7 and an A7 in the A section, and that's just going to take us back into the family of chords that are familiar to our ear in the key of C. And by the time we land on the beginning of the A section, we're very much back in the key of C. And lo and behold, another 2-5-1. 2-5-1. Okay? So without wanting to spend endless amounts of time doing harmonic analysis, I wanted to point this out to you because, again, this is a way that can really help you to remember I'll just get rid of that for a moment. It's going to help you to remember the structure of the song better if you can remember, like, okay, I'm circling these chords, 2-5-1s in the A sections, and then in the bridge, I have to remember that I'm going to be doing 2-5-1, but in the key of F. It's really going to help you understand the harmony of the song, but also from a memory perspective, it's going to help you to remember it better. Okay, so I would like to now start thinking about actually how we would comp instead of just playing whole notes like we just did when we were talking about this from the perspective of understanding the harmony. We haven't yet turned this into a performance that would actually stand us in good stead if we wanted to play this for someone we cared about, let's say. The simplest form of comping that we can do when we're playing, especially if we're playing in a context with other musicians and you want to play for yourself and you don't want to get too tripped up by doing too many complicated rhythms, is just what's referred to as 4 on the floor comping. And that literally means 4 beats in the bar. And you're just going to invoke a sort of a lazy kind of swing. So let's just, without playing anything on our left hand, let's just keep our hands on the fretboard like this to play a Z chord or whatever. And it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll always stand you in good stead. So we can start out just comping these chords like this. You're just too marvelous for words. Now, notice that I am not playing like this. If I do it that way, all the notes are washing together and every note is ringing out for as long as it lasts until the next strum, and it's going to sound washed out and it's not going to sound like jazz. So how do we make it sound like jazz? We have to do some muting with our left hand. And so what that means is, as I strum down, I press on the strings. And as my hand comes up, I release the strings, which means I'm going to stop the vibration. So it goes 1 and. So the and is quiet. And so that's why you'll notice that on page 3 of your handout, I actually have this comping pattern. It's the first pattern at the top. I've called it the 4 on the floor comping pattern. And what it means is you're actually just playing eighth notes. You're not playing full quarter notes as you count to 4. It's 1, and then on the and we're quiet. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And literally, if you're strumming up and down, just think of it like every time your hand comes up, you've got to mute. Anytime your hand goes down, you've got to press. So press, release, press, release, press, release. So you might want to practice that. It's a little bit like doing this, where you tap your head and rub your tummy. It takes a bit of time getting used to thinking of how to mute with your left hand, but it's well worth the effort because it's going to take your sound from just sounding like you're just, sloshing through with no subtlety and no rhythmic response from your instrument to suddenly having. And there's so much subtlety in how you can do this. That thing that I said about how you should unmute as you come up, that's just a starting point. You can make your eighth notes last a little longer. You could do. And what that ends up sounding is like a little more wow, wow, wow. Like if you make it sound a little longer, it can create subtlety, but you still swing, but you can play on with shorter notes too. So see the difference between this and this. Do you hear the difference? There's quite a big difference, isn't there? I'm making each strum last shorter or longer, but the tempo hasn't changed. Versus. This sounds lazy, kind of syrupy, more groovy. This is more like, ooh, I want to be on my toes. Yes, sir, right? So it's really interesting. And when you're comping for another musician, it can make a big difference to them whether you're holding your strum longer or holding it shorter, and it can evoke different reactions from them. So there's a lot of fun interplay to be had, and notice that all we've been doing this whole time is playing 4 beats per bar, which is really cool. And so far I've only been doing it with the strum on my right hand, but of course I can also do this where I pluck each note individually, thumb on top of the G string, index under the C string, middle finger under the E string, ring finger under the A string, and I can pluck all my strings and do this. That sounds quite staccato. I can make it last longer. That sounds syrupy, like a bit more in the pocket, right? So again, I can achieve the exact same thing with my right hand plucking the strings as with my right hand strumming. The reason I'm going to say you may want to start plucking a little bit more is when you get to bar 5 in the chords, notice that you have a C major 7 voicing that has open strings in it. Aha! How do we deal with the muting when we have these open strings? What do we do? Well, 2 ways to deal with that. One is, and this is a wonderful lesson, I think Craig has like a whole workshop that he's done. Craig and Sarah have done a previous workshop on muting and scratching, so you can look that up. 2 ways to achieve it. One is muting with the available fingers that you have. So now you have to be careful when you do it this way, because the finger that's pressing on the string has to release, and simultaneously the other fingers have to come down. Otherwise, you don't want to hit them too hard, or you do an accidental hammer on. So you just want lazy, like no tension in here, just like flop, flop, flop each time you're muting. Strum, flop, release all that tension each time. It's actually kind of good for your hand. It's nice to just chill out, release that tension as you're comping. So that can be a way to deal with those open strings. Alternatively, or in addition to, if you're using this plucked string technique, then you have a bit of added control, because the fingers come down onto the strings and they mute the strings as they come down. So you have that option as well. So play around with this, explore. Do you like the short strums? Do you like the longer lasting eighth notes, or do you want them to almost sound like quarter notes? There's a lot of give and take and stuff to explore in just the 4 on the floor comping style. All right, so how does it sound if I do this kind of more staccato, slightly floor on the floor type comping? Let's try that. 1, 2, 3, you're much too marvelous for words like glorious, glamorous. E minor 7, and that'll stand by A7, glamorous. Back to D minor 7, you're just too marvelous, wonderful. I'll never find the words that tell enough. F6, spell enough. Here comes C6, E6, 9. I mean, they just aren't swell enough. G minor 7, you're much too much. C7, gotta use the muting there for the C7. Lots of open strings. Too very, 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 to ever be. E minor 7, in Webster's dictionary. D minor 7, and so I'm borrowing a love song from the birds to tell. Slide for the F minor 7, that you're marvelous. D minor 7, too marvelous for words. And now notice, too marvelous for words. I've got my C major 7, and I'm just sliding my ring finger back and putting my middle finger down here on the C string to get my C sharp diminished chord. That, in case you're wondering why that last chord is in brackets, the brackets indicates that if you're going to play another chorus of the song and go back to the top of the form, then you should play the C sharp diminished. However, if you're ending the song and you're going to play you're not going to play what's in the brackets. In other words, the chord that precedes what's in the brackets becomes your last chord. So we've landed on a home, right? C is the home key for this. And we just play that C major 7, and we're going to let it ring. All right, and I'll have to see if there are any Ukulele Holo is saying that's one crazy chord. Was it E69? Yes, that is correct. It is E69. And just for those of you that are wanting to see it again, it is 1-1-2-2. And what's interesting about this is, remember how I said that when you start to add color notes to a chord, you often have to obscure the root? Well, our root is this open E string here. But to make it a 9 chord, the 9, remember, is one note above 8. 8 is your octave. So one note above 9 is going to involve the second note in the scale of E. And the second note in the scale of E is F sharp, a whole tone above it. And so we've got an F sharp in there, but we don't have an E, because in order to get the note 9 in the chord, we had to sacrifice our root. Poor little root. That's okay. Yeah, so these are the basic chords, and I just wanted you guys to have an option of the song that did not involve barring, because I know for some people barring can be a challenge, right? And so I really tried my best here to not involve chords that might be difficult for you, like if you have arthritis, or if you're just finding that you're not able to hold down the bars, you've got a version of the song that will work for you, that you can practice. The other thing I tried to avoid was this inversion of F minor 7, because I know 1-3-1-3. I know for some people this can be difficult. Even this shape can be difficult to stretch. So that's why we've got an inversion of F minor 7, which is 5-5-6-7. And that's the version that you see in the bottom line of the chart in the last A section. After you play D minor 7, we're going to slide over. We're going to go fret. We're going to go from here where we have our middle finger at the 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret, and then unwrap that chord and make it a B flat 7. But in the next version, the variations I'm going to show you, you will notice that I do use this inversion of F minor 7, and I'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so that's our basic version. Do I hear somebody saying? I heard a breath as if someone wanted to say something.
One person asked, any tips for the A7 and B flat 7? Seems hard to switch to those.
Okay, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that actually segues to something that I wanted to mention for the last A section, which is, and I think if you don't mind, I'll keep the handout out. That's okay. I wanted to mention for the last A, I would put a challenge to you guys to find ways to keep your pinky down on that A string for the whole A section. It is doable. And what having your pinky down there is going to help is, the way it's going to help is it's going to anchor you the whole time. You're going to skate along that A string, and it's going to really help guide you to that particular transition. So you asked about C major 7. One way to do it is, instead of using your ring finger for the C major 7, use your pinky. And I'll show you how to reverse engineer your way out of the G7 so that the pinky is still on the right string. Use the pinky for C major 7, and then let it slide to the 5th fret to make that B flat major 7, and then slide one back to A7. So let's just practice that a little bit. C major 7, 2, 3, 4, slide over, B flat 7, A7. Let's reverse engineer how to keep the pinky down the whole time. D minor 7 is here, 2, 2, 1, 3. Now, most of us, I think, when we see a G7, we think of keeping our index anchored here, and we pivot and we swivel like this. And I'll just use my hand camera so you can see what I'm talking about at higher magnification. So we go from D minor 7, and we swivel over here to the G7. That's how most of us think of playing G7, and I think it's kind of anchored into our brains. But there are several ways that you can keep your pinky down here. For example, imagine that you're unwrapping this shape to make a G7 where your index is above the nut here. So you could play it like this. Ring finger, open, 2, 1, 2, with the ring finger on the C string, the middle finger on the E string, pinky on the A. And in doing that, it's a pretty easy flip, right? All I do is lift the middle finger. Try not to flip me the bird. I know we all love each other, but make that G7 by lifting your middle finger out of the way. Okay, that allows you to then transition to a C major 7 where all the other fingers lift except for the pinky. Then we slide the pinky forward and it becomes our skiing navigator to get to 1, 5, 4, 5, B flat 7, A flat 7. Now keep the pinky where it was and just skate back, rearrange your other fingers to get back to 2, 2, 1, 3. Go. Now we have this F minor 7 that we have to get to quite quickly. So we're going to move this whole shape without reconfiguring our fingers. Just slide it over to the 5th fret like that. 5, 5, 4, 6. Unwrap. Keep that pinky where it was. Keep that pinky where it was. I feel like I'm like a aerobics instructor. 5 more, 2 more. Keep the pinky where it was. B flat 7. Keep pinky where it is. Just slide back again. We did this before. D minor 7, G7. Try not to flip me the bird when you lift your middle finger. C major 7. And you can even keep the pinky down if you wish to when you play that C sharp diminished by sliding the pinky back and using your ring finger here to make the C sharp diminished. Okay, and now notice your ring finger is on the right string to make the next chord at the top of the sheet again, which is D minor 7. So pinky and ring finger can stay exactly where they are. I just bring my middle finger over to join in front here. Pinky stretches there, index comes down, and boom, D minor 7. How cool is that? So in this way, you have the opportunity to really exercise some pinky calisthenics. And you're also using the pinky to navigate your way across the fretboard, and you're going to find that it's easier and you won't lose your place because the pinky is guiding you the whole time. Whew, it was a very long answer to that question, but it was such a good question. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so now I would like to move to the next. Let me just make sure I'm not going to be doing something silly here. We're going to look at the variations page because there are a lot of variations on this page. Let me just make sure I'm back there. Okay. There are variations that I would love you to consider. Some of these do involve a couple of bar chords, but they're still not too scary if we take them in small chunks. The reason I've put them in green color is I certainly do not expect you to try all of them at once. You can mix and match. You can try some of them or none of them. Entirely up to you. There are also some alternate voicings for some of the chords that we already learned on the previous handout on this version of the handout. So we start off exactly as we did before. D minor 7, G7, D minor 7, G7, C major 7. And now again, I'm going to try and use that pinky trick I just taught you. So I'm going to make a different G7. D minor 7, lift the middle finger, G7. D minor 7, lift the middle finger, G7. C major 7, back to F6. Now you'll notice I'm doing a little da, 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 da. So we're going to go F6. Slide this whole shape back to make C sharp minor 7. And basically, you're trying to keep your hand in exactly the same shape that you just made, this kind of a claw-like shape for the D minor 7. I try to keep it intact. I'm doing F6. F6 slides back, and technically, from a harmonic perspective, becomes the next door neighbor of D minor 7. So it becomes C sharp minor 7. Back to D minor 7. Slides up one more, D sharp minor 7. And we're walking up to E minor 7. So let's practice the rhythms. That's going to sound really cool. Let me just play it for you. Like glorious, glamorous, and that'll stand by amorous. So it's just like a way of breaking up the rhythm here so that you are adding, instead of just playing that 4 on the floor the whole time, you're doing like let me take it from the beginning of line of the 5th bar. Like glorious, glamorous, and that'll stand by amorous. if you need to practice that rhythm, because it's a little bit tricky, think of it this way. We're going 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1. So let's just practice going from F6, sliding back to C sharp minor 7 and back to D minor 7. So it would go like this. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 4. 1, 2 and 3. 4. 1, 2 and 3. 4. Okay, and now when you've practiced that a little bit and you're comfortable with that slightly syncopated beat, 1, 2, and 3, I would like you to get rid of the downbeat on 2. So it's going to be 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And once you're comfortable with that, add another slide to do that D sharp minor 7, and it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and E minor 7. So what we're doing with that little syncopated slide is we're breaking up the 4 on the floor quite deliberately. So we were doing like glorious, glamorous. Instead of doing it that way, where I actually plucked on 2, I'm going to do like glorious, glamorous, and that'll stand by amorous. So that's a way of breaking up the 4 on the floor, and it'll surprise your listeners because suddenly you're breaking up that steady rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 4. You're doing 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. And you land on the E minor 7. So that's a fun little slide. You don't want to do it every time you play through the song. If you're singing multiple choruses of this song, or if you're playing with other people, it's going to get tedious and it's going to become predictable if you always do the slide. You want to throw it, it's like spice in your cooking. You only use it a little bit, and then you don't clobber people over the head with it, and you maintain the element of surprise. Another thing I wanted to show you here is a substitution that is quite common, and it's known as the tritone substitution. You may be familiar with it. Instead of playing A7, we are instead going to play E flat 13. And what does that look like? I've got it marked in a green box on the second stave of your handout, and it's going to be 6, 7, 8, 6. I'm playing E flat 13. You could, of course, just play E flat 7, which is 6, 7, 6, 6. That's totally fine too. What I find is if you have a bit of difficulty with bars, sometimes playing the 13 actually makes it a bit easier, because what happens when you play it as a 13 is you're doing 6, 7, 8, 6, and it means that your bar is really only exerting pressure on the G string and the A string, whereas these two inner strings are being held down separately by your middle finger and your ring finger, who are, occupying the role of that your ring finger is playing what's the 13 in this chord. And it also sounds hipper. When you have that 13 in there, it adds richness, harmonic richness, and it's going to sound really hip. So let me play you so you can hear the tritone substitution. And it's called tritone, by the way, because it's 3 whole tones away. E flat is 3 whole tones away from A. And so you're replacing the A7 chord with another dominant chord that is 3 whole tones away, the E flat 13 chord. And you're allowed to do that because the thirds and the sevenths in each of those chords, they swap roles when you do the substitution. And so you still have those 2 common tones that are common to each chord, and it sounds a little bit dissonant, but also familiar, and that's what you want with the tritone substitution. The reason we do it in this context is we're going from E minor 7. We would normally play A7, and then we would go back to D. And the root movement would be E, A, D, and instead we now have the root movement being E, E flat, D. So we get chromatic movement in the chords, and it sounds really nice because you've got that nice descending line. So it goes E minor 7, flat 13. And then at bar 9, I've got you playing D minor 9. Okay, so that's a bar at the 5th fret, but I'm also using my ring finger at the 7th fret. The reason I ask you to note the upper voice movement is listen to what it sounds like on the top string. So you have that lovely movement. You have the chromatic movement up, even though the bass is moving down. So it's lovely counter movement, melodically speaking, in that upper voice, and I think it sounds really nice. So that's why I gave you that variation. D minor 9. G9 in the second A section is 4-5-5-5, and so on and so forth. The other thing I want to point out to you in this section is we've got, as we head to the bridge at the 13th bar, we go from C major 7. I give you the option of playing F6-9, 2-2-3-3. And remember, we had that 2-bar section that just went to E6-9. I mean, they just aren't swell enough. Instead of that, we've got the option of playing E6-9. I mean, F sharp minor 7. They just aren't swell enough. G sharp minor 7 to F sharp minor 7. So we're introducing additional movement into this chord progression, and instead of sticking for 8 beats on E6-9, we're playing 2 beats each, E6-9, F sharp minor 7, G sharp minor 7, F sharp minor 7, and that allows us to segue effortlessly into the next chord, which is G minor 7. You're much too much. That trick I just showed you there of playing the E6-9, what you're really doing is you're moving up the scale of E, and you're going up all the first 3 notes in the scale of E. So it's E, F sharp, G sharp. And because all those notes in these chords stay in the scale of E, they create the illusion of moving somewhere, but in fact, you're not moving anywhere. You're literally just stagnating, harmonically speaking. It's like you're circling the airport until you're ready to land on the chord in the beginning of the B section. So it goes, let's just play that second A section in its entirety so you can hear it as it's supposed to sound. You're much too wonderful. I'll never find the word that tell enough, spell enough. I mean, they just aren't swell enough. All right, so that's what that sounds like. On the next page of your handout, this is on page 2. I don't have so many variations options written out on the sheet, but rather just if different inversions for you to try. So we try G minor 7. You're much too much, too very very, and we're circling around the frets 3 and 5 for this. You're too very very very, and I give you the option of C13 here. To ever be F6, B flat 9 ever be. And notice we're going to do another tritone substitution. We're going to go from E minor, in this case E minor 9, in Webster's dictionary, and we're going to go to E flat 9 here. How cool is that? Doesn't that sound pretty? In Webster's dictionary. And we finish off with and so I'm borrowing G9, C major 7, a love song from the birds. And this time we're transitioning from C major 7, which is 5-7-7-7, a love song, back to that B flat 7 from the birds. And notice my pinky stays on that A string. Pinky's here, A string, pinky stays. Index can stay on its string as well, on the G string, and slide back, B flat 7, A7. So practice that transition where only your inner fingers need to swivel. C major 7, switch the middle fingers, slide back to B flat 7, A7. But your index and pinky stay on their respective strings, okay? And we're almost done with the tune. To tell you, D minor 7, that you're marvelous. This time I'm doing that F minor 7, which is 1-3-1-3. That you're marvelous, B flat 13. Little 2, this is like a little 2-5 here. F minor 7. like a 2-5 in the key of E flat, but it doesn't actually go to F to E flat. Then we go back to too marvelous for words, which we already saw on the other handout. If you find it difficult to make that shape 1-3-1-3 for any reason, you can always play 1-3-3-3. That'll make it an F minor 9 chord. It's still going to sound pretty. It's still a minor chord as it's functioning here, so that's still going to sound good. I'm going to stop there because I know I have a hard stop to reach, but I just wanted to say that when you're ending this song, too marvelous for words, you might not want to end on this voicing, this C major 7, this open voicing, because it has a B in its top string, and your melody note is up here, C, too marvelous for words. You might find that throws you off when you're singing. So in order to avoid that, if you do want to hold the note C at the end of the melody, you can play a number of other options. You can play C major 7 here, which is the exact same chord, 5-7-7-7, too marvelous for words. And that note, da, the B is hidden on the E string. But because you're strumming downwards, because our ear tends to hear the highest note in the chord sticking out a little bit more, that dissonance of having the B in there is not going to be so noticeable. So it won't throw off your vocals if you end on this chord. Or you can play C6-9, 5-4-5-5, or you can play C major 9, which is secret. It actually looks exactly like E minor 7, which is just 4-4-3-5. That's C9. That's your C major 9 chord. Or C add 9. Lots of options. C6. Any of those is going to sound better when you're hitting the note C than playing that inversion that has the B in it. On the last page of your handout, I have a few other comping options for you that you can explore on your own time. The second option, I just want to point out, the second rhythmic option is going to be this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm just doing the first bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And now let's add the second bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And it's going to sound like this. You're just too marvelous for words. And the reason I like that pattern is it liberates you from playing on the downbeat when you're singing on the downbeat, because this melody is very strong. It's got to pick up your just, and the just lands on the downbeat. So that's going to allow you to have a bit of freedom in your vocal phrasing and not force you to come in on that downbeat or allow you the downbeat to shine if indeed that's how you're playing it. And you can play this pattern throughout the song. You're just too marvelous for words, like glorious, glamorous, and that'll stand by amorous. And you can also alternate it with the 4 on the floor comping. And I'll show you examples of that during the concert. But I think I'm going to stop there because I want to hand it over to Sarah now.
Aw, Diane, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody
Thank
clap.
you, Sarah. Thank you, you guys.
That was absolutely fantastic.
And I think the thing that I love too about this is that there's so much to chew on, right? From just what you've given everybody, from being able to sing, practice singing your root note, really listen to the movement that's happening in the song, to then here's different voicings. Here's different ways that you could voice the same chords. Or here's some new variations, and even the comping patterns too. There's so much, right? So
yeah. I only scratched the surface, unfortunately. Right. Yeah. And I hope people understand that there's no way I'm expecting you to nail all this in real time with me as I'm playing through it. The reason I'm moving through stuff is you're supposed to go back and replay this and practice in your own time. So please don't feel bad if you're like, I can't keep up with her. How come I can't keep up? There's no expectation that you can. Okay. This is just stuff to consider, stuff to practice. It's really more about showing you, and I think Sarah is going to do the same. It's more about showing you how we think talk about approaching an arrangement and how we think about chords and making them work together, and considerations about voicings, voice leading, movement in the top note, things that are going to clash or not with our vocals. These are all the things that are unique to the jazz singer's conundrums when you're comping for yourself. You have to do what makes your vocals shine out, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, you're telling a story, and you got to make sure that whatever chords you pick help enhance the story so that you can tell it, right?
Now, a couple things there. We will be hearing this song later today, I believe, with a full band, which we're really excited for. We also linked Diane's Ukulele for Jazz Singers YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe. I have that in the chat. And Diane, could you play a little bit of what the chord melody sounds like for people who are on the fence about the diaper package?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So it's sort of like this. I have to stop myself from singing at the same time. I won't sing it. Don't worry. Do you want me to play the whole thing? Or
No. That's enough.
Snippets? Okay. Yeah. A little teaser.
So at this point, again, Diane is going to have to run across town to the other studio.
Yes, I'm going to run across town.
And so Sarah's going to be taking over. I will definitely. I'll post the links again in just a second.
Dina, there should be in the beginning of the packet. Everybody should have a link to. Let's see here. There's a mahalo letter at the beginning, and I did try to do Ukulele for Jazz Singers. I have her website. I have ukuleleforjazzsingers.com listed, as well as her standard YouTube channel. If you look at the ukuleleforjazzsingers.com, that should have also the YouTube as well. Craig can also post it again, but I just want everyone to know those links are in your packet.
I know you might, it's going to take you a little bit to get over, so we're going to let you go, Diane, so you can prep and get ready for the concert. And we can't thank you enough for joining us today. This has been so much fun.
Oh, again, it's my pleasure.
If you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, we do have this. You can get an early bird special for this May event, Ukulele Jazz Festival that Diane is hosting. We are very, very happy to be a part of it again.
Yes, thank you, Diane.
And
I'm so excited to have you guys. Craig, I just want to point out one thing. I didn't make the tickets live because I didn't want people to see the packet, buy the early bird, and not realize that they would get a coupon. And so I didn't want people to miss out on the coupon. So the tickets will go live after this workshop, so that everybody has the opportunity to use the coupon. I just wanted to put that out there. So in case people are like, where do I buy tickets? If you go to the site now, it tells you about the festival, but the tickets link isn't live just yet. But it will be after this.
Thank you. Good luck.
The Jazz Festival is online. It's an online festival. Anybody can watch and participate from anywhere. Someone's asking in the chat, is it in person? No, it is online, live from many different cities.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Coast to
coast.
Sarah, what take are you going now with? So Diane, we'll see you soon, and Sarah's going to take over with her workshop.
See you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye, Diane. Thank you.
Bye.
So today I'm actually going to be taking us like another step from where Diane had taken us with doing more chord substitutions to begin with. So you'll notice that for the handout, I've got the first round of substitution. So we're going to go through some chord substitutions. Some of them will work and some of them will not work. And I'm going to talk about why they might not work, but I wanted to still show them to you so that you could try to apply them to other songs that you know and love. Then, if there's time, I'm going to talk a little bit about creating different feels for songs. For example, people hear the terms double time and double time feel. What's the difference between those? Talk about if I'm going to be comping this as a ballad, perhaps, to change up how it feels, or even making it into a waltz or jazz waltz. And I'll talk a little bit about the difference between a standard waltz and your jazz waltz. So that's sort of the goal of today's workshop. And we'll see how far we get today. But either way, you still have all of the information. If I can't get through and explain the minutia of everything, I'll still try to do at least an example so that you could come back to this video and listen to that example.
All right, yeah. So we are, very excited to host this double workshop today. Now, we had a couple quick questions in the chat about muting with that G7. So typically, if your pinky cannot reach that G string to mute, again, we're letting go of these 3 strings, but in order to get that open string, we have to bring that pinky over. So typically what that means is your wrist is way too far if you can't touch the G string with that pinky. So a lot of it is, again, bringing this in, just like how, we talked about in multiple workshops before, this kind of home position where I can do C, G7, F, G chord, A7, D7, E7, all within this little pocket here. I don't have to stay all the way out here, and that allows me for things like G7 to have my pinky readily available to mute all 4 strings like that, or even my C chord. And again, I can have access to all my other chords right there. So part of it is just bringing this in a little bit. Typically that's the deciding factor if the pinky cannot reach all the way to that G string.
Yeah.
A nice straight wrist there. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to Sarah.
Yes. So somebody had asked the question in Diane's chart, that diamond, what does the diamond mean? So if we could put the handout up on screen for just a second, Craig. So you'll notice I'm going to zoom in to this diamond there. What that is it's just her computer. There's no actual note being played. That's also why this 8th note looks kind of funny. It's just sort of in the middle of the measure because this is a rhythmic thing. So it's just telling you rhythmically there's an 8th note, and then this is rhythmically how they would write, what am I doing? A whole note. So that's all that means. It's just there's not a note that's being played. That's the rhythmic timing, and that's how the rhythmic timing would be written out. So excellent question, everybody.
One thing really quick for Rob. Because okay, let me do this really quick. So for pinky control on this, the biggest thing that makes the heck of a difference when you're working on your muting and scratching is don't think of this as home base and then having to mute all the way down every time you want that quick mute. I want you to relax your hand a little bit more and just, again, no tension, but let your pinky just touch the strings. Think of this as home base so that when we do play, we're just lifting off for just that split second, and that's gonna give you that super good control and not overusing that pinky. But again, this way too, even when here in home base, I'm not putting any pressure down here, so this really is gonna be the most efficient way, but also building that nuanced control. But part of that switch is thinking that this is home base with the mute already down. Okay.
Nice. Sweet. So taking a look at this, I'm going to actually just kind of keep things fairly simple. I'm going to kind of take us through and be like, here's just an A section, and here's some things we're going to try. Here's just the B section. Here's some things we're going to try. So the first thing that you'll notice is that I took away that last G7. So for me, I know that that G7, as Diane had mentioned, it's the 5 chord leading us to the 1. So there's a couple of different ways that you can kind of go about it. You could do all kinds of stuff, and we're going to do a couple of different things. The first thing that we're going to do is something called a front door progression, where we're actually replacing that G7 chord with a 2-5 of the relative minor of C. So we're actually sticking in a 2-5 of A minor. Okay, right here. Boop, boop. So you'll notice that that B minor 7 flat 5 chord, if you've taken other workshops from me, it should remind you of a G9 chord, actually. It's the same shape. And the great thing about this is if I'm holding D minor 7, right? Oh, let me unmute. If I'm holding D minor 7, all I have to do to get to B minor 7 flat 5 is scoot my pinky down. Right? So again, that's D minor 7. Scoot my pinky down. And then I have E7 flat 9. Oh, sorry, first fret. So here, what all I'm doing is I'm keeping these two fingers down, and I'm lifting up my index and my middle and switching those around. All right, that's not too terrible. Now the next line, I have C major 7. Well, my pinky's already in place. Glorious. Now I have F6 sharp 11 listed, which looks a lot like that B minor 7 flat 5. Glam. And the reason why I've chosen the sharp 11 is that's actually your melody note. It's the B note that's starting your phrase. Then I'm scooting up my pinky because the next note after the B note is actually the C note in your melody. So I have 2 beats of this one, 2 beats of this one, where I'm just taking the pinky and moving it up. And then, for fun, I'm going to take this whole shape and move up to the 3rd fret. And then I'm going to scoot my pinky down in pitch. And now I have that A9 chord. So let's try it all together. From the very beginning, we're going to do super slow. Nice tempo del lerno. 1, 2, 3. You're just G7, too marvelous, D minor 7, too marvelous. Next one, for words, E7 flat 9, like glorious. Add 3 fingers, glamorous. Move up to the 3rd, that old standby, scoot your pinky down, right? So I think that this works really nicely, and also adding in, again, on that second line, that F6 sharp 11. Yes, it's a scary sounding named chord, but as a vocalist, if I can add in a melody note to help me reach the note, I totally will. So let's try this one more time from the top. 2, 3. You're just too marvelous. D minor 7. Too marvelous for words. Make that diminished shape. Like glorious. Glamorous. Move up and that old standby. Amorous. Nice. So this is just one way that we could change things up if you wanted to add a little bit more movement and not just stick on that 2-5 for what feels like forever getting to that C. And then the other thing I also kind of like about this is you're playing a lot of the same shapes. It's that bass player who's going to be taking care of all of your root movement changes. But it's just nice for memorization. It's kind of handy because I feel like it's a little less to memorize because you're playing a lot of the same shapes. And I find sometimes as a vocalist, especially when you're first starting out, that is so helpful so that you can just memorize the patterns and be able to make it through your tune just a little bit easier for yourself. Now, moving on. Oh, one thing I wanted to say about that A7, or that A9. So anytime you have a dominant 7 chord, 9 times out of 10, you can make it a dominant 9 chord instead, and it sounds great with your neighbor or with other instrumentation. Many times, as Diane pointed out, when you go to add a 9 to an ukulele chord, most of the time you end up losing the root of the chord because that note is a whole step away from your root. And that's totally fine, especially if you're playing with someone else, because maybe they'll play the root. And then together you're making a beautiful chord together, which is really awesome. Now let's look at this next round of variations here. I have got, instead of playing that B minor 7 flat 5 to E7 flat 9, I've decided to play F minor 7 and B flat 13. I, like Diane, also love 13 chords. They sound great. You could also just play B flat 7 and it'll sound great. You don't have to play the 13 if you don't want to. And then the next thing I changed was actually the right underneath it on that second line. Instead of saying A7 or A9 there, I've actually created a 2-5 in the key of D minor, trying to lead me back to D minor even more and just create a little bit more movement in that little area. It's not much of a change for your bass player because you're still holding an E minor chord of some sort. It just happens to have the flatted fifth in it. But just food for thought. Now, why am I calling it F6 sharp 11 instead of B minor 7 flat 5? I just saw that pop up in the chat, and it has to do with root movement and the context of the chord. So if I was playing a different instrument, I could actually play all the notes found in F6 sharp 11. But because I only have 4 strings, I'm super limited. So if I was playing piano or guitar, there's actually some extra notes that could be added that I don't have access to in those instruments. So it's only on ukulele that they really look the same. So keep that in mind. But it's also, remember Diane in the beginning was singing the root notes, and that is going to make a huge difference as to the real name of your chord. So hopefully I answered that question well enough for you guys. Okay, I'm going to keep moving forward because I think that was the only question I saw pop up. So looking at this set of variations, the F minor 7 here to B flat 13. So a couple of things. Let me actually write real fast. Maybe I'll do it on the bottom here. Yeah, I can write it down here. So I'm going to do this and just say you could also do this chord too, which would look like this. And it should remind you, if I write F minor 7 next to it, you should have a little bit of a light bulb moment where you're like, oh, look, this one note is moving. This guy here, you can see that hopefully. Oh, let me scroll up a little bit. So hopefully you can see that that one note is actually moving from between those two chords. So you could do that. So if I could do a close-up of my hand, and then I'll kind of go through. So you have F minor 7, which is that 1, 3, 1, 3. I could move my ring finger down and play a B flat 9 chord. It's a great exercise, actually, making yourself move just one finger. Or you can play what I have originally written, which is that F minor 7. And then I lay my index down and move 2 fingers over to get that B flat 13. And then my C major 7, I could try to use my pinky. I could use my ring and then do switching around if I wanted. Then I have F6 sharp 11, move up the pinky. You could move up to that 3rd fret, E minor 7 if you wanted. I did the 1st fret just so that we can have the next round of chords. So the cool thing about doing E minor 7 in this position to E minor 7 flat 5 is you hear the happening on that string, so that you've got this really nice movement that's kind of perceived as a counter melody to what you're singing. So again, starting with the E minor 7 here, and then this guy, and then A7. And you could use either finger, it doesn't matter. Let's go through and give it a shot and see how we feel. 1, 2, 3. You're just too marvelous for, here we go, F minor words like glorious, the sharp 11, glamorous, and that old standby amorous. I think I actually messed up my melody a little bit there. Sorry about that. And that old standby. Here's the E minor 7 flat 5. Glamorous, and let's just repeat it. Da, just too marvelous for words. The 13, like glorious. And then F6 sharp 11, move it up. E minor 7 for 4 beats. That'll stand by, flat the 5. Nice. So I like this because I love that F minor 7 to B flat 13. I just think it sounds so beautiful leading us to C major 7. And that's something actually called a backdoor progression. And just to keep the explanation short, it is a tritone substitution of our front door progression. I'm not going to go heavily into translating all of that, but I just want you to be aware of like the different terminology so that you can very easily look it up too. Because this class isn't really about getting into the nitty-gritty of like exactly. I just want you to be able to play these different substitutions and start hearing them, because you'll actually start to discover them when you get into these standards, because a lot of times composers will write them in and you're like, oh wait, I could do this, or I could simplify it and I could try this. So just keep that in mind and just let's try to get through and play through these since I have a limited amount of time. So this backdoor progression of getting there, or is I just love that sound, that B flat, dominant B flat chord leading to C major 7, but then that E minor 7 flat 5 to A7. If you're looking at the notes that the melody that you're singing, you'll notice that E minor 7 flat 5 does clash a little bit. But because I'm moving through it and moving to A7, and the A note is in my melody, you won't really notice that clash as much. But just know that for this particular song in this particular instance, that this making a 2-5 and D minor there, it's a little tricky if you're just starting out with your vocals, but if with enough practice you can totally do it and it will work. You just have to kind of do a little bit of practice and tweaking with your melody in order for that to really feel more comfortable. So making sure there's no other questions. I think we're doing good so far. So yeah, I like the backdoor progression better than the front door progression, but the front door progression sounds really nice. And then I love adding in that minor. I just think it's a nice way of kind of adding it. Now you'll notice I've also written out text as to why I've made some of my choices as well, just as a reminder for you when you're just looking through the handout. Next up, I've got a whole other round of things that I'm going to change up. Part of the reason why I did some of these changes is when I'm thinking about arranging a song, I kind of hear a whole orchestra in my head. Like I hear the horn section and I hear the strings and stuff, and there's certain sounds that I want to hear and certain changes that I want to hear behind me. But I only play ukulele. And this, for me, I might do something like this if I'm playing solo ukulele because I'm creating this movement that I'm kind of hearing in my head. So looking at it, I actually, for the ease of everything, I kept the front door progression going, that B minor 7 flat 5 to that E7 flat 9. And then the next line, instead of having C major 7 that whole time, I actually made us move to the 6th chord. There's two reasons I did that. The first reason is your melody note is an A note during that. So why not do something that helps you as a vocalist do that A note and allows the perception of movement? And then you have that F6 sharp 11 moving to an F sharp diminished 7. I love throwing in a passing chord when I can because I really think that it helps add some really nice tension that releases beautifully. So I'm having that C major 7, the A minor 7, the F6 sharp 11, scoot it up because then it leads nicely, I feel, to that E minor 7. Now you'll notice that I have that E minor 7 as a slash chord. Now don't worry. That's just a note to your bass player saying, I want to hear a G note there. Because for me, you'll notice that the movement happening is F, F sharp, G. So I'm moving up chromatically with our bass movement. And to me, that's just, again, what I'm hearing in my head if I was playing with a bass player. And I just want to let them know that. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is if you play low G, you'll actually get that low G note that I'm hearing. I'm playing high G right now. It's I would say it's my preferred G, but I like playing both. But just keep that in mind, as this particular voicing of E minor 7 allows you to actually have the G bass note that I'm wanting us to play. Now, you'll notice there's numbers underneath it. It might be kind of hard to read, especially if you're looking at like a tablet with me, but there's 2 beats of that E minor 7. And then on the 3rd beat of the measure, I play a D minor 7. And then on the 4th beat, I move up to the 2nd fret with that shape. Then you'll notice in the next measure, I play E minor 7 on the 3rd fret for 2 beats. And then I use the tritone substitution that Diane talked about, an E flat 7. And I'm going to play it on the 3rd fret of my, there's a 3 missing. So let me get in here and just go 3. But yeah, there we go. So there is, that's on the 3rd fret as well. So let's go through that second line super slow. So we have C major, A minor 7, or you could play an A minor, doesn't matter to me, F6 sharp 11, the diminished chord, 2 beats of E minor 7, and then D minor once, E flat minor, move it up to the 3rd fret, and then E flat 7. Not bad? Let's try the whole thing, okay? 1, 2, 3. You're just G7 too marvelous, D minor 7 too marvelous for. Just move your pinky words and then make the diminished shape. Like glorious, glamorous, 2 beats of E and that old standby, amorous, you're just, and we can keep going, so wonderful, too wonderful for, move your pinky words, C major, A minor, F sharp, and the F, there it is, and 2 beats, D minor, move it up to 3rd fret, right? So this creates a lot more movement going on. And one little thing to note is I actually might change up my phrasing of the melody, because the melody for that C major 7 is actually this little grouping of 8th notes, glorious, glamorous, right? But I might change it so that I'm actually matching the chord change instead. And that's something that you can do. You can take some liberties with the vocal, and you hear vocalists do it all the time. Generally, the first time around, you might sing it pretty close to the original, but the second time around or the third time around, you might change it up. So that's just something to keep in mind too when you're singing this, is you might switch it so that I'm doing glorious and glamorous as opposed to glorious, glamorous. It's sort of up to you. It works both ways, but just something to think about, again, when you are doing your phrasing. Okay. Yes. I love this. It's making sure there's no other questions. I think we're doing okay. Now, continuing on, let me make sure there wasn't something I missed. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move us to the B section. We're kind of skipping that second ending right now because I just want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the actual piece. So let's look at this B section here. And don't worry, we're going to come back and play some of these variations again. I'm going to make us play the whole song. But again, I just love being able to show options. So for this next one, I have actually done a Same kind of thing that I did earlier, because as Diane pointed out, the B section of the song kind of mirrors what happens in the A section, where you have a bunch of 2-5 going on. Tonally, you're in a different key. It's bringing you to the key of F with a G minor C7 going on. And so what I've done here is I've done another front door progression, which the front door progression is me using a 2-5 in the relative minor key. So the relative minor of F is D minor. So I've added that 2-5 and D minor to that spot, which is why it's E minor 7 flat 5 and the A7. And with this, it helps me lead to the F6, which also suspiciously looks like D minor in this case. So there's that I've done. And then I actually went ahead and replaced the last, on that second line, I added a 3-6-2-5 in the key of C, because it's a great turnaround, and why not? And what I've done here is that E minor 7's on the 3rd fret. It's 2 beats, and then we just scoot the pinky down in pitch for 2 beats, and then D minor 7. You could play G9 if you wanted, which is just scooting your pinky down in pitch so that you're playing the exact same pattern. And I'm just going to write that down here, or G9 here. So you've got that option if you, oops, I totally did not write the right chord. There we go. There you go. So that way you could, if you wanted, play the same pattern instead of playing G7. Let's go through and see how we feel about this one. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's right. You're much. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. You're much, too much. So very, very, very to ever B flat 7B, 3rd fret in Webster's dictionary. Nice. Now for me, I don't actually like the E minor 7 flat 5 to A7 as much as a vocalist, because I've got a super clash happening there vocally. But again, it's worth trying if you notice in a piece that you want to actually do that. Now, somebody's asking about more of an explanation for front door and back door progressions. Just shoot me an email, because I don't want to spend too much time super getting into it. The sort of short answer is a front door progression is replacing your, if you have a 2-5-1 or a 5 chord leading to a 1 chord, the front door is go to the relative minor and put a 2-5 in that minor key leading to the 1 chord, which is what we just did here. The backdoor progression is actually a tritone substitution of the front door progression. But again, I can go in more depth via email, and also send you links to, there's some online lessons from other that are on other instruments that you can actually look at on YouTube too, that are really, really great resources. So I can send that to you. So that was the B section there. Let's go ahead and move on to the next B section so I can get into this guy, and just making sure that I can get through all of the information I'm trying to get through to you today. So we have another one, and what I did here was the backdoor progression, which I like a lot better in this particular instance, which is that B flat minor 7 and E flat 9 leading me to F6. Then I'm actually doing an A minor 7 to D7 instead of that 3-6-2-5. And here, there's two different ways you can think about it. One way is I'm actually targeting that G or G7, where I'm playing a 2-5 in the key of G to help me kind of get to the G7. But it's also actually, and I even mentioned it down here, it's actually a backdoor progression again. But that's for me one of the, sometimes I also look at targeting and going, how can I get to that chord there? But I like this one a lot because I really like how it works with the melody notes. Let's just hear it, see how it sounds. So, you're much, 1, 2, 3, G minor 7, you're much, too much. Very, very, very to ever be. Here we go with the A minor 7 in Webster's dictionary. Yeah, I love that. I just think that that's a really great way of getting there. And it also, I think, is just, I find it to be really helpful vocally to help me finding my notes too. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3. You're much too much. So very, very, very. Yeah, to ever be. A minor, Webster's dictionary. Yeah. Woo, woo, woo. I love it. So I think that, this one is actually one of my favorites. And there's even more that you can do to it. Now, one of the whole reasons that we are focusing on this one song is you can see different takes to how much differently I might play this versus how Diane is playing this. And you might make certain choices that are different from how we're doing it. Everybody has a different perspective on the same song. And it's really great to be able to kind of go through and sort of try all of that out. So that's part of why we've chosen to really stick to one tune. Now, let's move on, because I think we are doing okay. All right. And I love that we have an 8-string player out there. That's awesome. But yes, Craig is right. 8-string can definitely make your hand more tired. But this is a really a fun song to play it on. So here I have our song form, and I've made yet a few changes, and I've highlighted some of those changes for us. The first change that I did is instead of playing that E6-9 for 4 beats or for 8 beats like she had done, I did another variation you could try if you wanted here, where we're actually going to play the E6-9, but then move up to an F sharp minor 7, and then just move your pinky down to play that B9 chord. So can we do a close-up of my hand so I can kind of take you through this guy? So here I have that E6-9, and then what I'm going to do is my pinky actually kind of goes in place, but notice how this middle finger is actually where it already needs to be. So this finger is just going to lift up, my index is going to slide up, and then I just need to add a friend. So again, going from this chord and then whoop, putting down that pinky first, and then moving these guys up and adding this finger. Sometimes if I'm having trouble with a transition, if I just take a few minutes to just try to do it before even playing it, even if it's not perfect, then it's again working on muscle memory. And that's that's only for 1 beat now. And 1 beat. So you have 2 beats, F sharp minor 7, move your ring, and then I bar the 4th fret here. Now you'll notice that when I'm going from here to here, my pinky is already in sort of the right distance from my index if I just take this and slide it up to the 4th and 6th fret for that E major 7. So keep that in mind for that section. Awesome. Thanks, Craig, for the close-up. Then in the B section, you'll notice there is an F6. Instead of playing the sharp 11, I just left it F6 for now because I'm actually going to do some movement. I'm going to move it up to that next position of B flat 7. So here I'm going to play 3 beats of this. 1, 2, 3. It's going to go up on the 4th beat, and then I'm going to move up 2 fingers and then add to get to that 3rd fret B flat 7. So again, F6, move it up, and then move it up again to get to that B flat 7. I find if I've got chords that are similar in shape, because to me these two shapes are kind of similar, you can sometimes get away with doing that kind of chromatic movement walking up. And especially too on that A string, you've got happening as well. So that also helps to allow this to, sort of work with your ear. But we'll have to sing it with our melody, because if it clashes with the melody, then we're going to have to do something else, or maybe even reharmonize the melody if you really want to do this trick. Then we also have another thing in the next line where I actually added that B minor 7 flat 5, that front door progression. So I'm referring to this area right here instead of playing G7. And I just threw it in just to show you another place you could throw it in. I'd probably play G7 there, but I've got this, a love song from the birds. I have 2 beats of A7, but then I add this sharp 5. I like it because it adds a little bit of tension to that chord to lead us to that D minor 7 chord. That A7 is the 5 chord of our D minor, if you're thinking tonally in the key of D minor. And if you alter that 5 chord a little bit, maybe making it a sharp 5, or even a flat 5 chord, it can sometimes sound really sweet when you finally land on the 1 chord. So let me see here. So just double checking. Okay, making sure that. Oh, are we running out of time, Craig? Okay, all right. So let's go through and play through this song, and then I'm going to just do a very brief demonstration of some of the different things because we are running out of time. 45 minutes always flies by, but no worries. 1, and we'll see how I do. I might mess up lyrically here, so I might just sing la-las. We'll find out. 1, 2, 3. You're just too marvelous, too marvelous for words, like glorious, glamorous, and that old standby amorous. You're just too wonderful for words. Da 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 dum da da dee da dee da ba bee. Sorry, ba da da ba ba da da. And then the G minor 7. You're just too much, so very, very, very. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and move it up. In Webster's dictionary, and D minor 7, so I'm borrowing a love song from the birds to tell you that you're marvelous, too marvelous for words. Yeah! So it sounds really nice with all of these different changes. So just keep this in mind that all of these are just suggestions. You can always just play the very first one that started everything off. Now after this, you'll notice that I actually have some different feel things listed. And I tried to be pretty good with the text, knowing that there was a chance I'd run out of time, kind of walking you through what these different feels and things are. So, and again, if you're going to work on rhythmic things, I highly recommend working on your basic chords, because I tend to work one hand at a time. So if I'm doing fancy new chords, I'm going to just play 4 on the floor. If I'm doing new feel, I could even just play D minor and G7. And I might only work with those 2 chords as I work on the different feelings. Now, real quick, double time, that's when you are literally doubling the entire song. So if my song was at 120 beats per minute, I would be playing it at 240 beats per minute. And it would be the melody, everything going super fast. After that, you'll see double time feel. This is, the song feels like it's going in double time, but the melody is not going in double time. to me, especially if I'm playing solo, the best way to do this is to count to 8 and you strum on every single one. So instead of just too marvelous, it would sound like this. Just too marvelous. Notice how the melody didn't change, but my comping behind it got really fast. It doesn't feel swung. You're making your eighth notes become quarter notes. And that's sort of the short story of what I have written there. After that, I go into a little bit about ballads. I have some examples on the page after this. You'll notice I have some music notation with our melody notes written, and you can try out some of the different things that I've tabbed and written out for you. And then I have our waltz versus a jazz waltz. Real quick, a jazz waltz is much more syncopated, and your standard waltz has the first beat super, super emphasized. That's why you see that red with that the emphasis sign. So just something to consider. For my jazz waltz, if I'm not playing with someone else, if I'm by myself, you might hear me do something like this, right? Something like that, which is what I have written there actually. And I'm just holding D minor, or if I'm switching, versus 1, 2, 3. Right? So that for me is the biggest difference. Is a jazz waltz is more syncopated. Your standard waltz is going to be very regimented and sound much more like a polka, kind of. That's kind of what I think of when I think of waltz as pa. So things to keep in mind. And then in it, you'll notice that I have, of course, music notated out. You've got your comping style at the top and the melody underneath. So you can see where things line up with the written melody. And for our jazz waltz, I actually rewrote the melody so that you can actually sing it. And you'll notice that when you make a song going from 4/4 to a waltz, you usually end up doubling your measures. So my D minor 7 is actually 2 measures now instead of 1, but they're 2 measures that are 3 beats each. So you're just too marvelous for words, like glorious, glamorous, and that old standby amorous. Right? So that, if I was just that was me just strumming a jazz waltz. Notice that the emphasis for me was actually on that second beat. So again, keep that in mind when you are looking at the rest of your sheets. But I believe we actually have Diane ready. Do we, Craig?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me unmute myself, but we're in for a very, very special treat.
I'm so
today.
excited about this.
So let me do this. So what I love the most about Diane and Adrian is that they also kind of tackled the pandemic like head on when it happened.
It's true.
And just like us, we kept pushing forward to see what we could do and how to still create events that felt live, that felt interactive in a way, so that we didn't go stir crazy for one, but also just to help connect everyone. And one of the biggest questions was always, how can you play live with other people that aren't in the same room as you?
Yeah.
And for a long time, it was just, you can't. That's impossible. There's no technology that can get rid of that kind of lag in between artists. And Adrian did not like that answer. So he created a Sync Space Studio. And we're going to bring them into the stream and have them kind of just jump right in. And we're going to talk a little bit about how they did the impossible and featuring some of the most amazing musicians up in Canada as well. I'm just super, super excited. And a huge thank you to everyone. Give it up for Sarah and Diane for the amazing double header workshop.
Double workshop.
That was a lot of fun. I know it was a lot to take in, but you guys did great.
This is like a preview of the Jazz Fest, by the way.
Yes.
So if you enjoyed this, sign up for the Jazz Fest. The tickets will be on sale after everything's said and done, and you can get that extra 10% off, but it's only good until February 28th. So do it before the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me see if I can bring them in. Woohoo!
There they are. I see. Oh my gosh, look at everybody.
Uh-oh. I think they froze. Oh no. Oh no. See, Sarah took 2 minutes too long.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh.
There they are.
Hey guys, can you hear us?
Yes, you are live.
Yeah, we're experiencing, there's some kind of network outage or something, but I think we can just still try to go ahead here and see how things go.
Oh.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Let's give it a shot.
Okay, let's give it a shot. All right, so we're just gonna get right into it. The band's gonna start playing, and then I'll introduce everyone and talk a little bit.
Also, and your vocal mic at least is soft.
Really? Okay, how's this?
Better.
Check.
Better.
Okay.
Can still come up a
Right.
hair.
Okay, let's see what happens when the band starts.
Awesome.
All right. Hi, everybody. Are we on? Are we live? Oh, we're live?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We are going to start things off with a lovely song by Karen Ann and Benjamin Biolay. This is a song in French called Jardin d'hiver, and it was made famous by the wonderful Henri Salvador. At the age of 82, he had a big hit with this song some years ago, and Jardin d'hiver means winter garden in French. And the reason I wanted to start us off with this one is you're going to hear it's in a minor key. It's an A minor, which is in the relative minor of C, which is the key we were just in when we were learning Too Marvelous. And although it's a very simple tune harmonically. It's got minor 2-5-1s. Oh, Craig is saying we could still be louder, he says.
I see it.
Okay. Minor 2-5-1, so B half diminished, E7 flat 9, A minor 7. That's in the minor 2-5-1 in the key of A minor. And then you're gonna hear that progression pretty much throughout all of the A section. And then in the second half of the song, when the person singing this song is talking about a memory of theirs, ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, my flowered dress under the rain of November, all of a sudden you're going to hear it shifting to the C major. And then you're going to see that familiar 2-5-1, D minor 7, G7, C major 7. And so I'd like you to listen for that. You'll hear it's almost going to sound a little bit like the sun is coming out, and that's because this person is reminiscing about a romantic moment in their life. And then it's going to go back to A minor when the words are talking about what they wish they could do, memories from years go by, and how they'd like their winter garden to be filled with nice things. All right, I'll stop talking and we'll do it now. Jardin d'hiver, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer, des photos de bord de mer dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, mes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin l'âge tend. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir à la Técoère. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre comme au long des golfes clairs, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, mes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin l'âge tendre, nul ne peut nous entendre. Shabam badadwe, badadwe badaya baya baya, badabadwe, badadwe, dans mon jardin d'hiver.
All right. Well, hi to everyone out there. It's a pleasure to be joining Craig and Sarah's live stream today. We're very excited. You already know Diane. You saw her earlier on, and Diane had to rush over from where she was teaching over to my studio here, where she and I are both actually in the same place. But Michael Herring, who is playing bass there, he is actually about 500 kilometers or about 300 miles away from us. And Dave Renault, who's playing clarinet, he is, I don't know what.
In Quebec?
Yep, a little, not too
Across
far
the
away,
river.
maybe 30 kilometers, something like that. But we are all in separate locations. And so we have been, last year at the beginning of the pandemic, I started this thing called SyncSpace Live. There's so much I could tell you about it, but I'm just going to quickly just run through a couple of things just to sort of let you know. If you want to find out more about it, you can go to the SyncSpace Live website, and you'll find out there a bunch of stuff. You can also check out on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel, and you'll see recordings from excerpts from some of the previous concerts that we've done. And also trailers that we release each week, which are often shot just at rehearsals. And mostly what we're going to talk about today is something called SyncSpace Perform, which is allowing us to do this kind of thing, to perform over the internet together. And we are doing shows basically every week at SyncSpace with musicians, professional musicians playing from all kinds of different cities, playing together. Sometimes we're even playing across the border, across the Canadian-US border. There's also something that you might be really interested in, which is called SyncSpace Teach, which is a new thing. It's sort of very different to this. And one reason you might be interested in if you're a teacher, but also I think it could be really interesting for people who are running uke jams as well. And that product is in beta right now. And just a few other plugs before we sort of go on with the music here. So as I mentioned, we're doing concerts every week, and we've got a show next Friday, and I wanted to invite you to come and watch that show. Now it's going to be interesting. It's the music of Ornette Coleman, which is not necessarily very uke-like, although there's no reason why you couldn't play Ornette Coleman on the uke. But you can get a free ticket to that. So I've created a coupon for you. Craig and Sarah is the coupon code, and you can use that when you go to the website, and you can get a free ticket to the show. And one of the things that you can do with that is you can actually watch any of our shows live. You can watch it on YouTube and watch it later on YouTube, watch the recording, or you can do something which is totally mind-blowing, which is you can actually go inside a sort of a virtual club and hang out with other people and talk to those people while you are watching the show together and all listening together in your headphones. So it's pretty mind-blowing. So basically what we are doing right now is, we're all seeing one another, right? We're all in different places, in different cities. We're all seeing one another, we're hearing one another. We can play together. We could even play very, very fast if we wanted to. And it just all works. And even like today, we're basically doing this little sort of a gig with very minimal preparation, right? But because we are able to negotiate everything in real time, it all works. So I'm going to shut up for now and maybe let the guys go on with another tune.
Thanks, Adrian. I just want to say I watched a concert, one of the SyncSpace concerts with my mom in the virtual venue during the pandemic when Quebec, the province of Quebec, which is where my parents live, was on lockdown. And it was so exciting to see her. Like, she was in Montreal, I was in Ottawa, but we were able to sit together and see each other on screen while also watching a concert on a big screen in this virtual venue. And it was very moving to me to be able to do that as if I was in a virtual club with her, even when we were very far apart. So I'm so grateful to the SyncSpace platform for that. And the other thing that's really cool about SyncSpace Teach, which is that other platform that Adrian's talking about that he's developed, is it's got a whiteboard in it and skeleton chords, so you can draw in real time, you can draw in like chord diagrams if you need to. So if you're running a jam or you're teaching, you can just sketch and all your students can see it. It's really cool.
Yeah, and just to answer a question in the chat about the audio, the audio should be really good, right? Like the fidelity of what we're doing is really good, and it's often better than some live streams. Some live streams you hear either in a real in an in-person venue or when the musicians are even in the same room. Now, someone did mention in the chat that the audio seems out of sync, and that is usually not ever the case for us. So, sometimes when you watch any YouTube,
it could also be at their end. Sometimes you have to refresh.
Yeah.
You have to refresh your browser.
Okay, we'll let you guys go on.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna do Too Marvelous for Words because we've been talking about this, and you guys already know the chords or somewhat, and I would encourage you to either play, if you don't want to play along with us, listen to Michael Herring on the bass and listen to him playing how he's playing the roots. And of course he's not going to be doing like 2, 5, 1. He's not going to just be doing that. He's going to be playing like, Michael, do you want to show them the difference between like playing whole notes and like a walking bass line?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like if it was just the roots, it'd be, well, a walking bass line is like all 4 quarter notes in every bar. So if I played just the roots, it'd be like this. And then you can fill it in with chords. Triads, I guess. Or you can use scales. And chromatic notes too. I cheated. I jumped 3 bass lessons there.
That's cool. This is awesome. You guys are getting like a mini bass lesson from one of Canada's finest bassists. This is awesome. Thanks, Michael. So you guys will recognize we did that in the uke workshop. I was getting them to play roots on the uke, and we were just doing exactly what you did the first time. We were doing like D, G, C. But now what you're going to be listening for, you guys, is Michael's not always going to be playing the root. Obviously, as he's walking from one root to the next, he's doing interesting things. That's the bassist's job, is to make it sound interesting as he moves from one chord to the next. But usually, am I right, Michael, in saying that usually on the downbeat of each significant chord change, you will be hitting the root, right?
Yes.
Yes. So you guys will be able to hear whenever the chord changes when you're watching on your chart, you'll hear him hit that root. And that's going to tell you, oh, the chord has changed. And you'll also hear it in the uke, but the bass is the thing you should be listening for first and foremost. Okay, I'll stop now. We'll start with the Too Marvelous, and Dave Renaud on the clarinet is going to bring us in. We're going to do the last 8 bars as an intro. So the last A section. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You're much too marvelous for words like glorious, glamorous, and that old standby amorous. You're just too wonderful. I'll never find the words that tell enough, spell enough. I mean, they just aren't swell enough. You're much too much. You're very, very, very to ever be in Webster's dictionary. And so I'm borrowing a love song from the birds to tell you that you're marvelous, too marvelous for words. You're much too marvelous for words like glorious, glamorous, and that old standby amorous. You're just too wonderful. I'll never find the words that tell enough, spell enough. I mean, they just aren't swell enough. You're much too much, too very, 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 to ever be in Webster's dictionary. And so I'm borrowing a love song from the birds to tell you that you're marvelous, too marvelous for words.
Awesome. So the other thing I didn't mention is that while the band is playing, I'm trying to mix all the sound live and also trying to switch all the cameras. And you can see actually that we didn't rehearse that much because I'm trying to keep up with what the band is doing and trying to figure out what's happening. But that's how you know it's live.
Yeah. And Adrian, if you can just put the camera on me for a second, I just wanted to explain one thing to everybody about how we ended that tune, because you'll remember that when I was teaching the workshop, I was telling you that I didn't think that particular inversion of C major 7 was a hot chord to end on if you're planning to sing the tonic, right? So if you're singing too marvelous for words, and then you have that B natural right under your voice, might throw you off. So remember I had said that you might want to do a different C major 7 that hides that dissonance on like an inner voice. And you may be saying, well, how come she ended on C major 7 just there when she told us sort of not to, right? But two things. We did a walk down. We ended that tune by going like E flat major 7, D major 7, D flat major 7, C major 7. And you'll notice I didn't sing the tonic. I didn't sing too marvelous for words. I sang too marvelous for words. Where is that? I sang it up there, right? It's a G. I sang the fifth in the chord. I sang the perfect fifth. And so because I did that, there's no more dissonance anymore, right? There's no clash in there. It sounds fine. So you don't have to avoid that particular voicing if you change the last note that you sing. I also could have sung too marvelous for words. So if I end on D, that also works really nice, and the D will work well with the C add 9 chord we talked about, the C 6/9, the C major 7, all of that. It's going to sound really pretty because D is like almost like when you think of landing on the note C when you sing the song and finish on C, it's like you've shut the door to the house, you've landed, you've arrived at home, and that's the end of the story. But somehow I feel like when you end on the 9 like that, it's as if you end the movie and you've opened the door. It's like you're going somewhere. Maybe you're going somewhere new. It has this kind of open-ended quality of like, we don't know where this might head next, right? So that's just something to think about. You don't always have to end on the tonic. You don't have to end on the note of the key of the song. All right. All right. And now we're going to do, I know we have some people from Brazil joining us today. And we're going to do a lovely song from Brazil, from one of Brazilian's greatest composers of the 20th century, Antônio Carlos Jobim. This is a song I always think of my grandma when I sing this song. My mom and my mother and my grandmother are from a part of India that used to be part of Portugal called Goa. And my grandmother's mother tongue was Portuguese. And when she moved to Canada, you couldn't get a lot of different television stations that had lots of different languages. And so she would watch anything from Brazil that she could get. And sometimes the only thing she could get on the Brazilian TV channel was soccer. And my grandma was not a big soccer fan, but she just wanted to hear Portuguese spoken in any way, shape, or form, even if she had to listen to like soccer commentary. So I always think of my grandma when I sing this song. This is called Corcovado. And in English, you may know it as Quiet Nights of Quiet Stars. 1, 2, oh 1, 2, 3, 4. Cantinho, violão, esse amor, uma canção pra fazer feliz a quem se ama. Muita calma pra pensar e ter tempo pra sonhar. Da janela vê-se o Corcovado Redentor, que lindo. Quero a vida sempre assim, com você perto de mim, até o apagar da velha chama. E eu que era triste, descrente desse mundo, ao encontrar você eu conheci. Oh, que felicidade, meu amor. Cantinho, violão, esse amor, uma canção pra fazer feliz a quem se ama. Muita calma pra pensar e ter tempo pra sonhar. Da janela vê-se o Corcovado Redentor, que lindo. Quero a vida sempre assim, com você perto de mim, até o apagar da velha chama. E eu que era triste, descrente desse mundo, ao encontrar você eu conheci. Esse amor, uma canção que eu canto pra você.
Nice. You know, another thing that we should mention is that we have a lot of musicians on SingSpace and they've never even met in person. Like we've never met Michael.
I know, it's true. And I've done so many gigs on SyncSpace with you, Michael. I feel like I know you, but I've never met you in person.
I was thinking about that when we started this today. Yeah, it would be nice when we get to be. Actually, my one grumble with the virtual right now is that we should be able to walk out of SyncSpace portal into Hawaii. That would be the thing to do right now.
That would be so cool.
Well,
What do you say, Sarah and Craig? Can we
can give you a virtual Hawaii.
I'm not looking for a virtual.
No, you want
he
the
wants
real
the real
world.
Hawaii.
Okay. Yeah.
The virtual concert is fun.
Well,
But when I turn this off, it's gonna be minus 10 Celsius outside.
yeah.
And the snow, the wind has blown snow over the walk that I already shoveled.
Uh-oh.
And I would like to walk outside and drink fresh fruit juice. I
Oh,
love
yeah. A
tropical
Mai
fruit.
Tai. I want that too.
Tropical fruit in
I will
season.
get to work on that, Michael.
Please,
It's going to cost you a little bit extra.
if you can get me a fresh guava or papaya in season,
Yeah.
then I will pay.
I mean, it's been such a wonderful thing for us, just for networking with musicians, right? And with audience too. So we had a guy, this is Bob Bruff I'm talking about. So Bob and Mark Ferguson, who's another musician who plays on SyncSpace, they played the other day together. Apparently they haven't played together for 40 years.
Wow.
And they played together on SyncSpace, which is pretty cool. And they're doing a gig together, all right, in a couple of months, right?
I was just thinking those guys are that old, but I guess they are.
Holy cow.
Yeah, cool.
Do we have time for another tune, or should we finish off with a blues? What do you guys think? I don't know. What do Sarah and Craig say?
Check in with Craig and Sarah.
Craig and Sarah.
One more tune. You can do one more tune.
finish
One
up?
more tune.
One more tune? Okay.
And by the way,
Okay,
I mean,
all right,
we're
thank
all
you
up
so much.
for you guys showcasing.
I would just like to say, before we finish up, a huge thank you to Craig and Sarah for having me on as a guest teacher this morning. It was so much fun to teach you guys, and I can't wait. I didn't get to see Sarah's part of the workshop because I was rushing over here, and I was literally like sweating as I ran over. But I can't wait to watch it again. I'm sure it was awesome, and hopefully we've given you lots of food for thought, lots of stuff to think about in how to approach jazz arranging on the ukulele and reharmonization options and stuff like that. And don't forget that you, of course, can go back and replay all that stuff. There's no expectation that you should be able to necessarily follow along and play all this stuff in the first time in real time. But with that said, I also want to thank Adrian for inviting us to be part of this SyncSpace showcase as well. We're just delighted to be able to use SyncSpace to play together like this. And please also put your hands together at home for Dave Renaud on the clarinet and Michael Herring on the bass. And Dave is in Gatineau, Quebec. Michael is in Toronto, and I am here in Ottawa. And so is Adrian. So this is just so much fun. And of course, Sarah and Craig are in Hawaii. So we've got multiple connections happening, and it's all just happening over the internet, which is so cool. We are going to finish up with a blues by Billie Holiday. It's a great tune, and it's pretty uplifting. So, and I can't remember what we agreed for solos. So I think we're just going to wing it.
That's dangerous.
It's jazz.
It's jazz.
I'll be
Okay.
right behind you.
Okay.
Half a beat.
12 up front?
Right.
Yeah?
Sure.
With Dave? Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I love that man, tell the world I do. Love that man, tell the world I do. But when he mistreats me, makes me feel so blue. Ah, man wouldn't give me no breakfast, wouldn't give me no dinner. Fought me about my supper, then he put me outdoors. Had the nerve to lay a matchbox on my clothes. I didn't have so many, but I had a long way to go. Oh, I love that man. I'm a liar if I say I don't. Love that man. I'm a liar if I say I don't. But I'll quit that man. I'm a liar if I say I won't. Sho ba ba do ya dwe da ba do ya do pwe ba ba do ya do pwe. Ba ba do ya do pwe ba yo ba dwe ba ba dwe ba o ba dwe da 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 dwe do ba ba do dwe. Been your slave ever since I've been your babe. Been your slave ever since I've been your babe. But before I'll be your dog, I'll see you laying in your grave. Some men like me 'cause I'm happy, some 'cause I'm snappy. Some call me honey, others think I've got money. Some tell me, baby, you're built for speed. Well, when you put that all together, makes me everything a good man needs.
All right. Well, thank you so much to Craig and Sarah for giving us the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what we are doing at SyncSpace. And as I mentioned before, if you want to go and find out more, you can just go to the website or check things out on YouTube. And perhaps we will see you at the show next week, just in case you didn't grab it before. That's the coupon code to get a free ticket to next week's concert. Any parting words, Diane?
No, just want to say a big thank you to Craig and Sarah and remind everybody that I have a bunch of free resources on that website that we were telling you about before, ukuleleforjazzsingers.com, including a few lessons on 2-5-1s and putting them into context in the examples of tunes like 1-6-2-5s in Blue Moon or cheek-to-cheek 2-5-1s, all that stuff. So you can go and watch some free little nugget lessons there, and there's some blog posts and stuff like that. And also, we hope you will join us for the Ukulele Jazz Festival in May, where myself and Adrian and Sarah and Craig are all going to be teaching. And again, I think Sarah and Craig put the coupon code for that. It's called Extra 10. That gives you an extra 10% off the early bird registration for that. So hope to see you guys there too. And I think with that, we'll turn it back over to Craig and Sarah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Adrian.
Woohoo! That was so good. Oh my God.
That was
so great.
Incredibly special.
And Michael, I wish that we could just have you walk right outside in our beautiful, what is this, like 70 something?
It's way too warm right now. It's so uncomfortably perfectly
Sandy.
warm and you know.
Sandy.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You're killing us
but-
here. You're killing us.
But in times like this, it is wonderful to see people keep pushing forward. And you know, Diane has done so much in the past 2 years. Adrian, of course, has done a ton on trying to solve some of these problems and has been able to support other musicians as well. David and Michael, you guys sounded absolutely fantastic. You have an open invitation to come hang out with us in Hawaii if you can ever make it over. Maybe you can accompany Adrian and Diane when they come and visit.
Yes, in Hawaii.
That'd be so cool.
That'd be wonderful. But and again, I can't thank Sarah and Dan enough for taking the time to really flesh out some of these ideas that we've had and doing that double back-to-back workshop today. Again, please keep supporting the ukulele, supporting live music. We can't do this without you, so thank you guys so very much for your support. Thanks for tuning in. Please share when you can. We want to make sure everyone gets a chance to see these kind of things, and we're proud of what we been able to accomplish with our friends, and we're still going to be pushing forward and creating some new things later this year as well. Tomorrow, don't forget to join us for our live premiere backyard concert number 5 with Kala'e Camarillo. You're also going to have a free entry by joining us live for that Opio by Ko'oloha as well. Thank
and
you
there's
to
goodies too.
The ukulele site for that donation. And there's also, a bunch of goodies that we're going to be giving away tomorrow as well. Yes. Again, in the packet that in the email, make sure you're on our email list. We'll send out an email with the replay links, but as well as all the information for Diane, for Adrian, for SyncSpace,
as well
and
as
David and Michael as well.
Yeah. And the coupons as well. So that way, because then we had some of you guys asking about David and Michael, so we'll make sure their websites and everything is listed so you can go find more of their music and other folks that they perform with too.
Awesome. But thank you for sharing your Saturday with us.
Yes.
Have a fantastic weekend. Hope to see you tomorrow morning as well.
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha, everyone.
Thank you.